Hi, welcome back to What's Cooking in Lakeville. I'm Jessica Bradley, and thanks for joining me today. Today, I have a great plan for you guys. I'm going to be showing you how to make simple and sophisticated appetizers and a delicious cocktail for dinner parties. It's going to make it so easy for you, and it's going to wow your guests. So we're going to get started right away. The first thing I'm going to be showing you how to do is one of my absolute favorite little munchies to put out when I'm having a party. It's warmed herbed olives. Say that 3 times fast, but warmed herbed olives. So what we're gonna do with it is we're gonna make an olive oil, and we're gonna infuse it with some garlic and some herbs, a little red pepper and some citrus, and then we're gonna warm up those olives in the oven. So let's get going. So the first couple ingredients that I have here, some rosemary, and you probably want like 4 or 5 sprigs. Actually, these are kind of full, so I think I'm gonna go with 3. And some thyme. And you want more of this because it's a milder flavor than the rosemary. And I really like the earthy, herby flavors of these. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pull the rosemary off the stem by holding it. You hold it at the top, and then you just run your fingers backward, like against the way that the leaves are going. So the leaves are all pointing up, and you just run your fingers backward, and then they will come right off. This stem is super woody, so you don't want to include this in any of your cooking because it's going to be like biting into a branch. Okay, so into my compost bowl. Okay, so I'll just do that for all of them. Just want to get a nice little pile, and then we're going to chop them up. We're going to do what we're doing, this is called an infused oil, and we're basically taking this nice fruity California olive oil and infusing it with flavors. And by doing that, how to do that is we're going to bring it up to just a little like warm on the stove, and then we're going to shut it off, and we're just going to let it steep, kind of like you would with a cup of tea. And we're going to give them a chop because these are going to get poured right over the olives once the oil is all infused. So you don't want big chunks of herbs. Just a rough chop, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is one of those appetizers that everyone absolutely goes crazy for. And I love serving this because it's not filling and it tastes really good, you know, if you're having a glass of dry wine or something, a little bit of a sweet cocktail. The saltiness really balances it out and tastes really, really yummy. Okay, right in. Then I'm gonna add 3 cloves of garlic. So an easy way to peel garlic, you just take the clove, take the flat side of your knife and smash it. And then this papery peel should come right off. Just like that. Whoops, a little bit left. And we're gonna just chop these really roughly. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just mainly going for the flavor. So the first time I ever had warmed olives, it was the first vacation Justin and I ever took together. And we had been away with my parents in the island of St. John. And we came home on a separate flight from them. And for some odd reason, we got bumped up to first class. We were like 24, I think. And we were like, oh my goodness, what is this? And they came around, they served us little individual bowls of warmed olives. And since then, we've been so hooked. It just makes them so good. Okay, so, and sitting in first class, I think that kind of helped the experience along a little bit too. Okay, so some crushed red pepper, just for a little bit of heat. A little bit of salt because the olives are already salty, so you're not going to want to add too much, maybe a half a teaspoon or so. You can always adjust later. So I've grabbed myself an orange and a lemon, and I love to add the zest of these. It adds a really citrusy, bright flavor to the dish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zest these right into the pan. And so you just run the fruit along the microplane. And you just want to take off the outer portion, the colored portion. So for the orange portion, you don't want this white pith underneath because that's really bitter. So I'm going to probably do about, I don't know, 3/4 of this orange right in here. Then I'm going to do the lemon as well. And I'm gonna use this whole lemon because it's smaller than the orange. And I like the brightness. All right, that looks good. All right, so when you're using a microplane, you always wanna flip it over and push the zest out because it all gets caught underneath that little ridge. Right there, okay. So this is what we have in here so far. Now we're just gonna add olive oil to this. Probably about a cup. And this is what we have. So we're just gonna put this on the stove on low heat, and we're gonna let it come up to a warm temperature. You don't want it to spoil or anything. You just want it to get slightly warmed so that it infuses all those really yummy flavors. And we'll check on it again in a little bit. Usually you can tell when it's starting to get infused because you can start to smell all the herbs and the garlic and the citrus zest fragranting the air. So we have that infusion going on the stove. I'm gonna keep my nose open and keep an eye out for it to see when it's gonna be done. In the meantime, I'm gonna put together the base of a spiced cider sangria. This is my favorite sangria recipe of all time. I found it online. I love food blogs, and there's so many people out there who put out really good recipes, and I found this one online, and I've tweaked it just a little bit to fit my taste, but I find that it's a really festive drink to serve at any type of party. So the first ingredient that we need is some apple cider, and you want the real apple cider that you can get. It's like the cloudy, not apple juice that you get in the shelf-stable aisle. This is usually found in the refrigerated section of the grocery store, or in the fall you can get that at local apple orchards, or a lot of farms will sell it as well. So we need 2 cups of apple cider, and we're gonna put everything in a pan, and we're gonna bring it up again. We're gonna steep it again together, just like we're doing with the olive oil on the stove, to kind of infuse some yummy spice flavors into the cider. So that's 2 cups of cider. To that, I'm gonna add 1/3 cup of sugar, just white sugar. In here I have about between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon of allspice and about 1/2 teaspoon of whole cloves. They add some real warmth and spiciness to this drink. So I'm gonna add those in. And then I'm gonna add in 2 cinnamon sticks. And these are just whole cinnamon sticks. You can find them in the grocery aisle, on the spice aisle at the grocery store. So I'm gonna stir all this together just to kind of dissolve the sugar in here, and then I'm gonna add the last couple ingredients. So we're gonna take the zest of an orange again. Again, I really like that brightness and fruitiness that brings. And then we're gonna slice this orange as well and put it into the cider so that it can all steep together, just to give it some extra flavor. So we'll use the zest of this entire orange. And again, don't go so far down as you get the white pith, because we don't want bitter sangria. God forbid we have bitter sangria. Slice up some slices of this orange, toss those in. I can smell the oil. Just make sure I get all that zest. Quick stir. We'll bring it over, get it on the stove. Okay, and the oil is done, so I can smell it and I can hear it starting to bubble a little bit, and it's starting to get all the flavors out from those herbs and the garlic and the zest into this oil. So we have the oil, and I'm gonna show you how to put together the olives now. So what we need to do, we're gonna make a little foil packet, and we really wanna make sure that we reinforce this foil packet well, because we don't want the oil to leak all over our oven. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to take 2 big strips of foil and lay them out like a cross. And then I have 2 jars of olives, and you can get the ones at the olive bar, like at the supermarket, if you wanted to as well, but I like these ones. 1 jar of green olives and 1 jar of black olives. And I'm just gonna drain the juice out of these, just right into my sink. Okay. And I'm just going to take the olives and put them right in the middle of the foil. I'm just going to curl up the sides of this a little bit. The hardest part of this is to make sure the oil doesn't go everywhere. Okay. Then we're going to take our infused oil and spoon it over the top. And you want all the herbs and the garlic and the crushed red pepper and the olive oil over this. Okay. I'm going to fold this together. Make a little packet. Pinch the sides. Let me take this, fold it over so nothing leaks out. Okay. Let's see. I think we got it. And I've preheated the oven to 300 degrees, and we're just gonna pop those in there and just let them come up to a warm temperature. This is something that you can do well before your party. Even the day before, you can prepare this, the oil and the olives. You can put a packet just like this in your fridge, and then like maybe a half hour or so before your party, pop them in the oven, and 5 minutes before your guests arrive, pull them out. It's such a time saver, and it's a real wow factor when you present them. Okay, so in they're gonna go. And I'm just gonna check on my cider, and it looks like it's doing good. I mean, it's not quite where I want it to be yet, so I'm gonna let it continue to steep right now. And I think I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little bit to kind of get it going. I start to smell a little bit of the orange, but I definitely wanna make sure we infuse all those spices in there. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make yet one more infusion, and it's going to be another olive oil infusion, and you can just use the same pan that we just used for the olives, the olive herbed mixture that we just made. What we're going to do is we're going to make rosemary infused olive oil, and I'm going to then use that to turn plain popcorn into the most amazing sophisticated treat like that you'll ever serve your guests. I mean, people will say, I can't believe how good this popcorn is. And it's the simplest, it's so inexpensive. It's one of my absolute favorite appetizers to put out before a dinner party, or just if I'm having a couple of my girlfriends over. So let's head this way and give that a try. So this is the most super easy appetizer or munchie you'll ever make for a dinner party. All you're gonna do is you're gonna take a bunch of sprigs of rosemary. After you wash your rosemary, make sure you thoroughly dry it, because the oil and water will separate in the infusion, and we don't want that. So all we're gonna do, seriously, this couldn't be easier. Take a bunch of rosemary. You don't even have to take it off the sprigs, because we're just gonna pull it out later. We just want the flavor in the olive oil. Put it in the pan and add the oil. Maybe like a half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. And we're gonna use this to cook our popcorn in later on. And then once the popcorn's done, we're gonna take some more of this beautiful rosemary oil and drizzle it on the top with lots of salt. And it's so good. It just takes plain old popped popcorn to such a new level. Okay, so this is gonna go on the stove. And we're gonna let it come up to temperature. And once we smell those herbs, we're gonna pull it off. Put it on like a medium low. It'll probably take about 10 minutes or so. One other thing, you can do this ahead too. You can do this the day before your party, and then just store the oil with the rosemary in it to make sure it kind of retains that flavor, just like in a little Tupperware container on your counter. And then, but right before the party, your oil will already be done, and you can just make your popcorn. So that's great. Okay, so it looks like the cider is starting to get little bubbles around the outside. I don't know if you can see that or not, but, and it's starting to steam, and I can smell the herbs and the oranges infusing it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it off, and I'm gonna take out all the big chunks. and pour it into another container to let it cool. And then we are going to take a look at how you can put together a beautiful cheese board, taking cheese and crackers from sliced cheese and crackers on a plate to a wow display. So I'm gonna use a slotted spoon to pull out all of this stuff. You could strain it as well, but this is easy because it's not that much. Okay. And this is another thing that you could do the day before your party. You could make this infusion and put it in the fridge overnight. Pull it out, mix it with the wine, and you'd be good to go. All this stuff is meant to make things easy for you on the day of having a party. Over the years of entertaining, I've kind of learned what I can do ahead and little tricks of the trade to make things easier for myself, because I always say to myself, my house is gonna be clean, I'm gonna be totally ready like 3 days before, and it never happens. I mean, with kids and dogs, and there's always last minute cleanup to do. So I figure the more things you can do in advance, the better off you are the day of, the less stressed out you'll be, and the more fun you'll have at your party. So, okay, so I've strained out all the stuff, all the orange and the cinnamon sticks and the cloves, and I'm just gonna pour this into, a little mason jar that I have laying around it to cool. Okay, and I am gonna do this over the sink, and be careful because it's hot. A cheese tray. Everyone's seen a cheese tray before, and it's usually some cut up cheese and crackers, and everyone loves cheese and crackers, and so they're a staple at most parties or get-togethers. And they're good for kids, they're good for adults, so we love them. That's why we see them all the time. What I wanna show you guys how to do is take your typical cheese and crackers that you would put out on a plate and elevate it to kind of the next level so that it's really still just cheese and crackers, but it looks super impressive and it's beautiful for folks to look at, and they really wanna dig into it. So what I like to do when I'm kind of selecting a cheese tray or a cheese board, the first element that you need is a board. You could do this cheese display on a white serving platter, but this is my favorite element to serve my cheese display on. So what you're looking for are a couple different types of cheese. I always like to use a Vermont cheddar, so like a hard, sharp, dry type of cheese. Sometimes I like to do a cream cheese with like a pepper jelly or a mango jelly on top of it, because that tastes really good. Today I've selected 2 different goat cheeses actually. One is a maple goat cheese, and that kind of gives a little bit of a sweet flavor. I always like to have something with a little bit of a sweet flavor. And then I've also selected a garlic and herb goat cheese as well. So that's kind of more of a savory flavor, but you could choose like a brie or something like that. So I just like to have different types of flavors. I like to use some type of flat dark green leaf to anchor my board. Now I went outside and I just clipped these off of my hydrangea plants, and I brought them in and I washed and dried them. The only thing you want to make sure is that you aren't using anything poisonous, obviously, and there's no pesticides on it. So you can get like lemon leaves, things like that as well at your florist if you want to, but there's usually something that you can find around. And if you don't, you know what, don't worry about it. What you can do is you can use a bunch of like green parsley or something to offset it, to give it something green. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of play around. I like to lay the leaves out on the board, just in different places, to anchor the cheese. I am going to take this block of cheddar, and I think I'm gonna put it right here on the edge. And let's see, I'm gonna put this log of the garlic and herb goat cheese on the other edge. And these, I caught that, okay. There we go, right on the leaf. And the next thing I have is the maple goat cheese. And this came in a little tub, and I'm actually gonna spoon it just into a little white ramekin because I like the way it looks. And put it right in the middle. in the middle. Okay, so now we have our 3 cheeses, our hard cheese, a couple soft cheeses, 1 sweet, 1 savory. The next thing we're gonna do, we wanna add some height to this. So right now it looks kind of blah, it's just some white cheese on a board with some leaves, right? We wanna add some height and some color to this. So what I always love to do, classic combination, are cheese and grapes. So I'm gonna lay these grapes, let's see, I think just like this. And you kind of just play around with it to get it to look how you want it to look. Another thing, I was at the grocery store and I found these adorable little pears, and I thought they would look so pretty kind of to set off the white cheese. I'm just gonna do like a little grouping of 3. And that's another tip. When you're grouping things together, 3, an odd number, always looks better than an even number. So 3 pairs would look better than 2 pairs. So kind of just put those right on the end, and now you're seeing that it's starting to come together. It's looking really, really pretty. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add some crackers right around this space right here, and then I'm gonna save this end for one other element. And another tip that I wanted to offer you guys is when you're doing something like this, you want to group things together. So you want blocks of color. You don't want to scatter a bunch of grapes on the board, because it's not as impactful and it doesn't look as good as when they're all blocked together like this. So 3 pairs scattered along the board wouldn't look as nice as if it was when it's all blocked together like this. Same goes with the crackers. Just choose a couple different crackers that you like. I have a whole wheat cracker and then a water cracker as well, which is a classic, cheese and cracker type cracker. Okay. All right. And then the last element I'm going to add are just some dried apricots. And I really like the color and the texture of these. They're chewy, they're super bright orange, and I always, always, always love the combo on the same plate of something purple and something orange. But really, you could do anything you wanted on this. If strawberries were in season, strawberries look beautiful with the cheese. If you don't like apricots, you could use some, dried figs, or some dates would be really pretty. You could use green grapes instead of red grapes. You could use some green sliced apple. That takes, normal cheese and crackers up to the next level. It looks like you're at a fancy dinner party when really it took you probably 10 minutes to put that together. So I really hope you try this. I think your guests will really love it. So now let's put the sangria together. I love this recipe so much, and everyone that tries it loves it. So this starts with a bottle of red wine, and I have just a fruity Pinot Noir, fruity kind of dry Pinot Noir here, but you can use whatever wine that you like. I just think it should be dry and fruity. From there, go to town, whatever you decide. So we're gonna take this bottle, we're gonna empty it into this decanter. Into that, we're gonna add a couple other ingredients. The spiced cider that we made, that's been cooled. Add that right in so I can fit all this. And some orange juice. And some, I like orange liqueur. With it, you can choose a brandy if you wanted to, but some of that. Okay, we're right up to the top with that. Okay, this is how I like to stir it, with the bottom of one of my little spatulas, the wooden spoon part. Just make sure it all gets moved together. So now when we serve this, how pretty is that, by the way? Beautiful color. When we serve this, we're gonna serve it, and I'm just gonna slice these now with some orange slices. And I'll show you in a little bit how to put this together. Some orange slices. I just like to cut them into rounds and then in half, so folks can garnish as they like. Okay, with some orange slices, and then also we're gonna serve it with some cinnamon sticks as well. But we'll get to that in a minute. So let's head over to the stove and make literally the world's easiest appetizer. Here we go. We're gonna crank up the heat on the stove. We have, to about medium high, because we wanna get the pan really hot. And I have a heavy bottomed saucepan here, and you want to get it nice and warm like I just said. You have your rosemary infused olive oil. We're going to take about 3 tablespoons of this. Put it in the bottom of the pan. Okay. I'm going to get that nice and hot. It's going to really get going. We're going to reserve this olive oil for use to drizzle on the popcorn when it comes out. Okay, so we'll put it aside for now. Next, we're just going to add a 1/2 cup of unpopped popping kernels. You can just get these at the grocery store. This is one of the most inexpensive appetizers you could ever serve, and people love it. So we're just going to add these right in. And it's going to take a couple seconds, but it is going to start popping. All right, so what you're going to do, you just want to make sure you keep your thumbs on the lid of the pot. You just want to give it a shake, okay? You just listen and give it another shake. This prevents anything from burning on the bottom. You want to adjust the heat as you need to. You're going to give it another shake, back on the heat, and turn it down a little bit because I don't want it to burn. Okay. And then what we're looking for is to know it's done, we're just going to wait for it to, till the popping starts to slow down in there. Really, I can feel it now. It's starting to push against the lid that's getting full. Okay, it's slowing down, so we're almost done. All right, I think that's good. There's probably still a few more in there that haven't popped yet, but I don't want to take the risk of burning anything. So, okay, so I'm going to take this over and I'm going to dump it out, and you'll see what we have. All right, the big reveal. All right, so we have a pot full of beautiful popcorn. So this is how I like to serve this. The simplest treat. I like to just dump it into a nice big bowl. So you're going to add more salt than you think you need because the popcorn's really bland in and of itself. Then you're going to take some more of this rosemary oil and you're going to drizzle it all over this popcorn. It's so good. Okay. And you can even do this before you take it out of the pan and kind of mix it up in there to make sure all the pieces have a little bit of extra. I like to put these out with the popcorn like various places throughout my house. Take, like little serving trays. You put a little bowl of popcorn in some bowls, some little napkins, in different places where folks might gather. And this makes it easy to eat. People can just take it, scoop it up, and they have their very own little serving dish of popcorn. It's super fun. I'm gonna grab the olives and show you how I like to plate those. And then I will pour us a glass of sangria, and we will take a look at everything that we've made, and then we'll be done. Right. So these should be nice and toasty because they've been in the oven for about a ½ hour. So we're just gonna open up the packet. Be careful because you don't want the oil splattering everywhere. Ooh, and you can see the steam. So I'm just going to mix these up a little bit, and then we're going to add them right into, let's see if I can pour this without making a disaster. Let's see. Shake the olives out into this bowl. You have all those beautiful herbs and the garlic and the zest all mixed in with them. Serve them with a spoon. And you can't forget this. This is the most important thing. Those olives have pits, so folks need a place to put them. So I always put a little bowl right next to the bowl of warm olive. How I like to put this sangria together is I like to have a bowl of ice out along with the pitcher of sangria and then the garnish, as well as a bottle of seltzer or club soda, unflavored. So, and then you set it up with all your wine glasses. So each glass will get some ice. Okay. the sangria. And then you top this sangria with some of the seltzer water, and it freshens it up and lightens it up a little bit. Just a little bit. And what I love to do is I love to put a garnish of an orange right on the side and another cinnamon stick right inside. So these are all my favorite elements for easy, simple, elegant, sophisticated appetizers and a drink for, you know, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter holiday, or you're just having a few girlfriends over, or it's a family Sunday dinner. These are easy, make ahead type things that don't take a long time. They're simple, earthy ingredients that we've elevated to the next level. And you'll be amazed at how much your guests are gonna love them. And it's gonna be, you're almost gonna feel bad that people love them so much because it was so easy, but that's your secret, only between you and me. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you again soon.